with Coach David Heuberger. Springfield Mill is your third year here with Springfield. How are the practices going so far this summer, Coach Heuberger?
They're good. We got a lot of kids into the weight room, which obviously hopefully transpires into some added strength on Friday nights, and had good turnout all summer long. We're very happy with it.
Excellent. I do want to bring up your last year just before we talk about this next season. 2 losses to Silverton, first game of the year, and then in the quarterfinals there in the playoffs, 35-3. As a defensive guy, does it bother you Silverton scored 35 on you, or does it bother you more that you only scored 3?
That's a good question. I wish we would have played better, but you got to give a little bit of credit to our opponent and what they were able to do, and what they took away from us, offensively, and how they attacked us defensively. We'd like to think that, one of the few teams that's willing to schedule a Silverton week 1, and obviously we were in a good spot to have them here on our home field, for a playoff game against them. So, we want to play the better teams and see where we hang our hat on with that. We want an opportunity to play good football teams, and Silverton was a good football team.
And speaking of that, this season you've got Thurston renewing that rivalry. You also got a long road trip to Hermiston. Pretty tough schedule for the Millers.
Yeah, you got those 2 games, and you add on, we're at Crater and we're at Ashland. We're going to kind of have to take the show on the road a little bit and see how our players react to that. But, for where our program's at right now, we have to schedule those games. We have to schedule quality opponents so that we can continue to strive to reach our goals.
It's kind of a luxury for you. You don't have to worry about your starting quarterback. That's a nice thing for a coach. Talk a little bit about some of the players that have stood out so far for you this summertime.
I think we have a group of junior O linemen, D linemen that have been in the weight room now 2 years, and kind of had the luxury to bring them on along a little bit slower, and I think we're really excited to see what they do on Friday night. We got Trevor, obviously, at quarterback, like you mentioned. We got Nick Assam. He's taken every rep at quarterback for 2 weeks, just with Trevor a little dinged up, and I mean he can fill in. So we actually got quite the luxury at that position. Tailbacks, like I said, we got how are you going to replace Taylor Travis? Well, the year before it was how are you going to replace John Emerald, and we have some athletes here. We're excited to get them the ball and them the opportunity to make those plays.
It's always replacing somebody, it seems like, the next season. Talk a little bit about how your team has had to practice maybe a little bit differently given the OSA changes in how many practices, how often, and maybe even the targeting rule. How has that impacted the way you guys practice?
We've never been a team that practices, extremely long or with a ton of contact. Today it's the 3rd day of so-called doubles, and 10 o'clock, and the kids are walking off the field, and we started at 8 o'clock, and we're done practicing today. And that isn't a OSAA thing. That's just we want to get in and have practices where we're aggressive and keep our kids hungry, for that opportunity from Friday night show around. We don't do a lot of contact. We don't do a lot of long practices, things like that. But we want, the 4 months out of the year we get the kids, we want them, to be excited to play football and be out here. The 3-4 hour practices, kind of a thing of the past. It might be new with the OSAA, but I think the NCAA has had rules on how long, they can have their kids at practice, and so it's a fresh thing. OSAA sounds like they're trying to stay ahead of the curve on some of the rule changes for safety, and I'd like to think that from the different coaches I've learned from that, those guys were ahead of the curve on how long their practices were, and we kind of try to duplicate that here.
Last question before we cut you loose here, Coach Heuberger. You described your team as a junior-laden team this season. Tell me a little bit more about that. You got a lot of juniors. Trevor Watson, obviously, your quarterback. Tell me a little bit more about some of those guys.
Yeah, junior-laden team. I wouldn't say we're a young team. I mean, when you start saying that, it means a whole lot of different things are going on. But we really like our juniors, and they've all had an extra 3-4 weeks of practice with the playoffs, being out here. They've had 3 extra games. They've got to play in the fourth quarter of quite a bit of games. So they're an experienced group. And you start talking about, a Braden Haas, that's a junior, a Trevor Watson, that's a junior. You're starting talking about guys that have started for 2 years.
Yeah.
So even though they're juniors, they've played quite a bit of football.
Excellent. Coach Heuberger, thank you very much for your time. Good luck to the Millers this year.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.